Good morning, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach. Welcome to another edition of This or That. Now, today's video is going to be just a little bit different. The question I'm going to ask you has to do with crochet tools. And we're not just going to have one or the other, okay? Basically, I've been getting a lot of questions about new crocheters and all the tools that are out there, and it just seems so expensive to learn to crochet because there are so many different tools out there. They don't know what to get. There's thousands of kinds of crochet hooks, thousands of kinds of yarn, and all the other tools that they think they need. Well, really, you don't need that many things to start. And I always say start small and then you can build up from there. All right, so what we're going to cover today is 5 essential tools you need just to learn to crochet. It's a great idea to maybe pick up these 5 things. They're not expensive, and then you can see if it's even something that you really want to do before you spend a whole lot of money on a bunch of tools and things that you just don't need. I have 5 things here, 5 tools that you will need. I am not counting the yarn as a tool because you can't crochet without yarn. To me, that's just a given. I will say that when you're first starting out learning to crochet, get you some light 3 or some medium 4 weight yarns, whether they be acrylic or cotton, to practice your stitches with. But to me, the yarn is just a given. The first thing I want to talk about is crochet hooks. Now, these are my favorites that I've been using for many years now. These are Clover. They have a plastic end on them, and they have this little rubber thing here, which is for your thumb. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but I have short fingers, and I love the Clover hooks. Also, the numbers and the letters never wear off. A lot of other crochet hooks, they wear off. Now, these are my favorites, but they're a little more expensive. So if you want to learn to crochet, but you don't want to buy an expensive set, go to your local either Hobby Lobby, Walmart, Joann's, and Michael's, I can think of the other place, or any craft store, and just pick up some inexpensive crochet hooks. I recommend getting an H and an I first. That's your 5 millimeter and your 5.5 millimeter. Those are the ones that I use the most. Okay? And I would recommend getting one of each of those. They're just a couple of dollars at Walmart back in their yarn section. And pick up an H, which is a 5 millimeter, an I, which is a 5.5, just to begin with. Okay? Because a lot of patterns do call for those. Now, I have a full set of these that go, from 3.75 up to 6. And then when it gets bigger, I use some other hooks. So I just have these 5 measurements in these. Now, these are Clover. And I purchased them from Michael's. I couldn't think from Michael's as a set. All right. I don't know if they still have them or if they still carry them as a set. But you can find them on Amazon as well. All right, so the first thing you need besides your yarn is a crochet hook. The second thing that is second most important to me is a tape measure. A lot of people don't measure as they go, but the thing is, everybody has different tension, and tension is how tightly that you stitch. Okay, I tend to stitch a little bit looser. Other designers tend to stitch a little tighter. So it's a good idea to measure as you go. If you're making a hat and that designer is a tighter stitcher, and you may need another row to make it long enough, or you're making a blanket and it's not coming out wide enough, then you know that you need to add some additional stitches. Okay? And so your tape measure can keep you from making a whole project and then realizing it's not sized right. All right? And so I think that besides your crochet hook, you need to keep a tape measure. This is just one I got in a set that I bought at Lowe's. My husband has the 2 bigger ones, and I took the small one. It was a set of 3. But you can buy tape measures anywhere, fabrics or crafts are sold, and also any hardware store. Tape measure to me is a very important tool. Another tool that you need are stitch markers. And a lot of people say, I don't need stitch markers. Stitch markers are for knitters. But there are so many things we can use stitch markers for. Those long beginning chains or foundation stitches, or remembering where points are in like making shawls and granny squares, things like that. It's nice to be able to mark those stitches. Stitching in the round for Ammies. So grab yourself some stitch markers. These I got at Hobby Lobby. And yes, they were in the knitting section. And they're like a jelly. Remember those jelly shoes? Yeah, I love them. And they came with this fun little container. It has a little hook here. You could always put a string of yarn on that and hook that on your crochet bag and take some with you. All right, so we need crochet hooks, we need a measuring tape, and we need some stitch markers. The other tool that's really important is needles. We need those needles for weaving in our ends. I have one friend that says, I never use needles, I just use my crochet hook. You can do that, but it's really important that when you're weaving those ends in, that you go through those fibers of the yarn. And that means not just going around the yarn, but going through the fibers when you're stitching back and forth to make sure those ends are going to stay put. And I usually keep a couple of sizes, you know, for bigger yarns and smaller yarns. The main thing is to make sure you can get the yarn through the eye of the needle. And it's a good idea. Toss a couple of those in with your stitch markers and you'll always have them as long as they fit. There we go. All right. So we need needles for weaving in our ends. And then the fifth thing, of course, is a good pair of scissors. Now this is a small pair of Fiskars. I've had these for 25 years. I've had them, like I said, for 25 years. And it came in a set of 2. I got a pair of sewing scissors. This is considered an embroidery pair of scissors. But you can even go at the beginning of the school year when they have all the safety scissors out for children for school. Those work just fine. You just need something to clip your yarn. All right? You don't have to go and buy a bunch of expensive tools to learn to crochet. Inexpensive yarn, get some inexpensive crochet hooks, grab you one of those $1.99 measuring tapes from the fabric store, some inexpensive stitch markers, a couple of needles, and a pair of scissors. That's all you need to start to crochet. So you see, you don't have to spend a lot of money in order to learn how to crochet. Now, we've talked about these 5 things: crochet hook, measuring tape, stitch markers, needles, and scissors, and of course, yarn. I will tell you a great resource for finding free crochet patterns is your local library. You can go in and look at the magazines and decide if you would like to buy one. Then you can go to your craft store and buy maybe that particular issue of a crochet magazine. Another way that the library is a great resource is that they have lots of books that you can check out on learning crochet and crochet techniques, as well as embroidery and knitting and lots of other yarn crafts. Okay, it's a great resource. You can check them out and you can practice with those. Another resource that you can use to learn crochet patterns is like All Free Crochet, and any of your yarn companies like Premier or Red Heart or any of them that sell yarn, they have free crochet patterns. That way you can try out their yarns and use those patterns and make things and not have to spend money on crochet patterns. Also, of course, YouTube. I have over 1,000 crochet tutorials that you can use to learn. And most of my patterns, I keep them on either a beginner or an easy or an intermediate level. I have some that are harder, but I just feel like that I want my patterns to be out there for everybody to use. And I want people to not feel intimidated that they're too hard. Okay, and I have had people tell me I need to do harder patterns, but my goal here is, like I've said many times, I want everybody to crochet. I don't care who you are, where you live, what your resources are. I want you to be able to crochet. And that's why it's important to me to let you know that there are inexpensive ways to learn this art. Okay, and crochet is a yarn art. All right, so we can learn to crochet inexpensively. Now, this is a this and that question video. And so my question to you is, do you have tools learning to crochet that have helped you? And please comment with those helps so that we all can learn. Also, if there are tools that you've purchased and you're like, I don't need that, don't purchase this. We would like to know about those too, because remember, we can all learn from each other. This is a crochet journey. We're all at a different place in our crochet journey. And just because you've been crocheting for just a couple of weeks doesn't mean you don't know anything about crochet. And just because you've been crocheting for hundreds of years, it doesn't mean you know everything. Because crochet is an ever-growing and changing art with new yarns, new techniques always coming out. And I absolutely love testing new yarns. They're so much fun to make things with. And sometimes I'll get a new yarn in and I'll make 5 different things trying to figure out what that yarn is good for. Okay, and so anyway, there are so many resources out there for you for free patterns, free techniques, and just learning how to crochet. So don't be intimidated. Remember, practice does make perfect in most things. But when it comes to crochet, I always say practice makes confidence, because this is an art. And we need to do what works best for us in our art. Just like a painter, not every painter paints their trees the same. Not every painter or even craft artist does their art the same. If you've ever gone to an art gallery, you'll see they have their own techniques and styles. And crochet is the same way. We all have our own techniques and styles. And if you get on Ravelry.com, you'll see that. Some people's stuff, you'll see it and you're like, that's her stuff. I know it. That's her style. And that's the way crochet is. And it's okay to have your own style when it comes to crochet. The things you love to crochet the most, the things that you don't. All right, so bottom line, the question, please comment what the tools or techniques and things, that resources that you have used that have been helpful to you in crochet. And it's okay to let us know if there's those things that you purchased maybe that you think, nah, I don't really need that. Alrighty, well, thanks for being with me today, and I'll see you next time for another edition of This or That, and like today, the other thing. Bye-bye now.